All right, everyone. MarkRogersTV, voice of college football, breaking down the Buckeyes and the Terps at College Park. This is the game that I have been watching start to finish. I typically keep my eye on about 3 games at noon, 3 to 4 games every window of the day. But this being the upset bid that really counts. We'll get to Citadel, Alabama in just a second. But that really counts toward a college football playoff, a shocker potentially at Maryland with the Terps leading 24-17. Other decent matchups going on, but nothing that factors into a conference championship right now with Mississippi State, Arkansas. I have also been DVRing Michigan State and Nebraska. Hope to catch that game a little bit later with the Spartans leading 3-0 right now, and a few other games across college football, of course, but we're going to focus on Ohio State and Maryland. I will look at the live chat as well as we get you set for the second half and all the big 3:30 Eastern time games. Let's strike up the live chat, and I'm going to run through my notes as well, as there is a lot to talk about here. The Buckeyes are a mess on defense. Second play of the game after Anthony Mcfarland was thrown for a 1 or 2 yard loss. Buckeye fans have seen this a number of times. They showed a graphic during the first half that there are 3 backs in college football that have run for multiple 75-plus yard touchdowns this season. 3 in college football. 2 have come against Ohio State. Artavis Scott played for Clemson, of course. Artavis Pierce for Oregon State in the opener. And now Anthony Mcfarland, the big recruit, Booger McFarland's son, that is having an enormous, outrageous first half in this game. He goes 81 yards. Terps led 7-0. I'm just going to run through my notes here. Then Maryland very smartly kicked the pooch punt, the pooch kickoff, after shocking Ohio State. They've got nothing to lose, although they are playing for a postseason berth, trying to get to a 6th win, trying to pull off this monumental upset, derail Ohio State's Big Ten championship hopes. They recover the pooch kickoff at the Ohio State 21, leading 7-0, just like that. Unfortunately for Maryland, they threw the double pass, and they fumbled when the kid escaped. Jashawn Jones, he escaped from a few tacklers in the backfield. Looked like he had some running space, but then he fumbled. And the Buckeyes recovered to avert that disaster. J.K. Dobbins has had a nice first half until the final play of the first half, but he's had a nice first half running the ball. The Buckeyes look sharp for the most part. They've made mistakes. They've had some procedure calls, false starts, those sorts of things on offense. But in terms of moving the ball on offense, big plays in the passing game, running the ball consistently, they look good on offense. The defense, though, abysmal. J.K. ran it for the first 3 plays, and then they ran it down inside the 25-yard line, stalled there. The field goal by the Buckeyes after the Lautez Rogers sack on Dwayne Haskins, 7-3 Terps. McFarland then 75 yards for the touchdown. So this is coming in 2 different, there are 3 different areas of concern in these long gash running plays. Number 1, there's a lane to drive a tractor trailer through on these plays. Linebackers are out of position. They're out of position, and then they're pursuing way too quickly, and the pursuit angle's awful. They're misjudging the speed of the back, and then the back's gone. And then the Ohio State secondary is not able to run them down. So you're getting beat at the point of attack. The defensive front that's supposed to be so good for Ohio State, I heard Greg McElroy call it as good as any in college football. It's not as good as any in college football. This is game number 11, and the Ohio State defensive line has played well most of the time, but they haven't been dominant. I believe that the Alabama defensive line, certainly the Clemson, that's the gold standard. The Clemson defensive front has been exceptional, and of course, we know the talent going to the NFL. Ohio State's defensive front is good. It's very good, but they've lost their best player, and they have not played up to standards. They've been good. The back 7 has been the problem, but they have not compensated for it by being dominant. McFarland goes for 75. It's 14-3. Keep in mind, with Maryland scoring 24 points in the first half against Ohio State, they scored 0 versus Iowa. They scored 3 against Michigan State with her starting quarterback. Thayer Mumford was hurt. Offensive lineman for Ohio State left the game. I don't know his status right now. Ohio State driving again. J.K. stuffed on a 4th and 2 at the Maryland 20. So despite a strong first half rushing the football by the Buckeyes, they did have a 3rd and short in which Tate Martell came into the game. He was stuffed, and then J.K. was stuffed on a 4th and 2. So at the point of attack, Ohio State beaten on 2 consecutive plays there. Tyrell Pigram threw that one beautiful ball for 58 yards. And that was an exceptional play. The Maryland speed on the outside, and this has been the case since DJ Durkin took over. Of course, he's no longer the coach, but since he started recruiting and even going back to Randy Edsall, Maryland has had a poor tackling team. They have had a bad offensive and defensive line units. But in terms of speed on the outside, maybe not the best, most productive players, not the top of the line, but in just in regards to recruiting and signing sheer speed, they're as good as anybody in the Big Ten. If you just want to run a track meet, and not just this team, this has been going on for about 3 years at Maryland. So they get the 58-yard play. Pigram did miss a wide open receiver when Kendall Sheffield was knocked down on the play. The Ohio State cornerback missed him. Wide open play right there that would have made it 21-3. They did kick the field goal 17-3. The Buckeyes could be down 28-3 or could have been down 28-3 at that point. Fumble in the red zone, and then the missed wide open pass to the right corner of the end zone. Could have been 28-3. It was 17-3 at that point. Buckeyes come out right after that, right after the kickoff, and they can't run a play. They've got to call a timeout. Would have had a delay of game. That's unacceptable. Then Mcfarland rips off 52 more yards to the Ohio State 20. The Buckeyes pulled it in on defense. They got consecutive sacks from Tuff Borland and Chase Young to move Maryland back. They missed the field goal. So we could have had a 31-3 game right there. All right. Then the Buckeyes got cranking on offense. Dwayne Haskins, the bomb to Terry McLaurin for 68 yards. McLaurin leads the team in touchdown receptions, 17-10. That was the play that broke the Ohio State passing record for a single season. Haskins at that point with 3,375 yards. Javon Leake and Marcus Lewis relieved McFarland and showed that it wasn't just McFarland, but it was the Maryland offensive line gashing holes in the Ohio State defensive front as Javon Leake went 3 carries for 27 yards and a touchdown. And then there's usually a safety or a linebacker for Ohio State that comes up in the hole and misses the tackle. That's what's happening. Anthony McFarland, even though he ripped up the Indiana defense for 210 yards last week on 29 carries, and this was one of the top 3 to 5 running backs coming out of high school a couple years back that went to Maryland, 210 yards again last week. He had 107 against Temple, against Iowa, Michigan, and Michigan State. What should be comparable defensive talent to Ohio State. Actually, the Buckeyes have better defensive talent, personnel talent, recruited talent, signed talent out of high school than Michigan State and Iowa, and probably better than Michigan, but comparable. But they have worse defenses productivity-wise on the field than certainly Michigan's the best in the business, or top 3 to 4. And Iowa and Michigan State are very good. McFarland, I'll check the stats in just a second. He had 218 yards with about 5 minutes left in the first half. 218 yards rushing for one guy in one half against Ohio State. McFarland against Iowa, Michigan, and Michigan State had 23 carries for 66 yards. Haskins to McLaurin again, 39 yards. That was an exceptional catch on the pass interference. McLaurin and the defensive back going back and forth, and he reeled it in with one hand. That led to the J.K. Dobbins 20-yard run down to the one. Then he stretched it, I thought foolishly, but stretched it in the stack of players over the goal line, 24-17. Maryland fumbled at its own 25. Tough Borland was all by himself. I don't know how he missed the football. He pounced on it, as they talked about. The ball squirted free, and Maryland recovered its own fumble. Otherwise, the Buckeyes would have had the ball at the Maryland 25-yard line. As it was, they stopped Maryland, took over, and Dwayne Haskins led them right down the field. Paris Campbell touched the ball for the first time. Ohio State's leading receiver coming into the game with 62 catches, touched the ball for the first time with 1 minute left in the first half. That shouldn't happen. Benjamin Victor made a great play down the right sideline. Rayvon Davis had an awful consecutive plays here in throwing and getting the big play passed on him by Haskins and Benjamin Victor. Then he throws the mouth guard. He gets a 15-yard penalty. Very next play, he causes the pass interference on the beautiful throw from Dwayne Haskins to the corner of the end zone. So the Buckeyes have the first and goal at the 7. They're ready to tie the game at 24, but J.K. Dobbins fumbles. Based on the review, I would guess that he did not fumble before he was down. It looked like he was probably down, but it was the correct call by the replay booth because you just couldn't see it. You could not see it in any way, and you can't assume. But it looked as though, based on when the ball squirted free, that you could see it exposed versus when he was on the ground. It looked like J.K. Dobbins was down. But they made the call on the field. They couldn't confirm anything either way in the replay booth, so the play had to stand on the field. So the Buckeyes, huge mistake at the end of the first half, could have tied the game at 24. So we've got Maryland 24, Ohio State, the 2-touchdown favorite that has to win. Many people believe they have to look impressive. Well, that's gone by the wayside unless they come out and win the second half like 42-0. They just want to survive this game. Ohio State and Maryland, of course, the Buckeyes need to win to keep their Big Ten championship hopes alive with a date against Michigan next week. Those are my thoughts on the Buckeyes. We'll check out the chat room. Also, Alabama and Citadel at last glance. They had started the second half. This is the last I know. And Alabama fumbled the kickoff of the second half, and the Citadel recovered, tied at 10. Now, Ohio State fans should be awfully scared and worried about this result in the first half at 24-17. Alabama fans, yeah, it doesn't look good. It's kind of funny, kind of amusing. They're not losing to the Citadel. There's a huge difference between the Citadel and Maryland. There's also a huge difference right now between Alabama and Ohio State. There shouldn't be. What's wrong with Ohio State? I don't know. They have exceptional talent right there with Alabama and Clemson. They actually, based on recruiting rankings, have better talent than Clemson. They should. And they have this all-star coaching staff that's not preparing these players. So there's a coaching issue, a development issue with the coaching, or there's just too much turmoil surrounding all this Zach Smith business, Urban Meyer's health, now another Zach Smith allegation this week that's probably untrue. It was certainly thwarted in a unified stance by the players this week. So I don't think that's much of a concern, but still, that didn't help the cause this week. All right, let's get to the live chat. See what you guys have. Bama 10-10 with Citadel. Let's check the score on that. I want to see the live chat again here. I'm on my USC channel. I've got to switch things up. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. All right, Dennis Wilson, Mr. Mark Rogers, the referee's helping Ohio State get back in the game just like 2002. I have no idea what you're talking about, Dennis. You would have to be more specific. I've not seen any necessarily bad calls in this game. I think Ohio State was called for a 15-yard penalty that was crucial out of bounds, and it was the right call. They've been called for a number of false starts and procedure penalties on offense. So I'm guessing right now, without looking, Dennis, that Ohio State's been flagged a lot more than Maryland in this game. You don't know what you're talking about. Urban Meyer is an embarrassment to college football. Oh, my goodness. If Urban Meyer's an embarrassment to college football, if we're talking about on-the-field coaching here, then I guess everybody's an embarrassment to college football. He's got the best record of any active coach and one of the top 3 in history. So that's a ridiculous comment. Man, we're off to a good start. I know they're underachieving. They're not playing well, but they're 9-1. And yes, they're not playing well. They've not played well this season, but an embarrassment to college football. If all of us succeeded in our profession as well as Urban Meyer, we would all be driving Porsches and have unbelievable homes and be world renowned. So, man, it's a good thing. As I mentioned the other night when we were talking to Steve Dace on Michigan podcast, it's a good thing that the rest of us are not held to the standards of these athletes and coaches. Being, when you're the second best or the third best, you're trash, because look at the rest of us. JMD, so bad. The Citadel, Maryland, Sean Nicholson, Jason Hughes, go Citadel. Got to check that score in just a second after I get done with the comments here. And of course, we'll get things freed up to watch the second half. Stand for my flag. Meyer, you appear to have lost control of your team. I can't believe the guys are really this bad. Richard Neal is laughing. The Citadel, College Football Talk, JMD, amazing if we pull this off. NASA, CGI Snakes, Ohio State overrated. I always love that comment. They're overrated. They're the lowest ranked of the one-loss teams. I don't know what that really refers to. I would think maybe they're underrated. If Ohio State goes out against Washington State tomorrow and plays, I will take Ohio State to win that game. I don't know about Oklahoma. I would take them against West Virginia, but I wouldn't be as sure. But against Washington State, to be ranked below Washington State, I don't know. JMD, Michigan is beating us next weekend. People are overreacting just a little bit. I know they've looked awful this first half, but the way Michigan's been playing and the way Ohio State's been playing, we could have said this for the last, I've been saying it for about 8 weeks. I would say that Michigan is playing much better than Ohio State. And if this continues, Michigan will beat Ohio State. They may beat them like they beat Penn State, or it being in Columbus, I would doubt that, but similar to the win against, let's say, Michigan State. Or who else did they beat that's good? Michigan beat Wisconsin. Michigan State 38-13, 21-7. I would expect Michigan to beat Ohio State if they continue to play as they currently are, for that game to be Michigan's going to win that game, 38-20, something like that. They'll win by 2 to 3 touchdowns against Ohio State. Smash that like. Thank you, NASA. I appreciate it. Man, Mcfarland showing off. Yes, he is. We're not making the playoffs if we win the Big Ten at this rate, Rose Bowl or bust. There's a lot of complicated scenarios there in the Buckeyes and Maryland ready to start the second half. And the Buckeyes will have the ball. Please beat Bama Citadel. And I'm going to check that score before I get off here. Big Poppy JT on the line. Also, Israel Kelly. Want to mention everybody here. JMD, Fire Shiano. I'm telling you, these guys are supposed to be great coaches. This is supposed to be a great coaching staff, and they have great talent. We know they have great talent. Maybe the rankings and recruiting misfire on particular players, but overall, with 100 players and with the best recruits in the land right there with Alabama, basically it's just Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State, not even Clemson. Clemson hasn't recruited to Ohio State's level. This is a coaching issue. All right, Haskins in the pocket, looking all over the place, and he runs up the middle. If there's been a positive for the Buckeyes today, it's that they're running the ball. Haskins in the passing game back on stride after a couple off weeks, and he's actually eluded some would-be rushers, and he's taken off with the football, and he's shown a little running ability. I don't want to stretch that word too much. Running ability. We've got hate for Greg Schiano. Leon, man, Citadel better not win. I love the assumption that that Alabama would make the playoff with a loss, but what if the loss was to the Citadel? All right, everybody and their mama was praising Greg. I would laugh my ass off if Citadel won. Just saying, yes, it would be hilarious. Ohio State loses, then beats Michigan. Big Ten is left out. Yeah, that certainly. We talked about that this past week. Ohio State loses to Maryland, that beats Michigan. Don't be shocked if that happens. Nick Bose is a quitter. Israel critical losing now. About to beat what I don't know what we've got here. Some of these typos all over the place. Can't read this stuff. Leon Hurricanes. I wish I could be in Bama and Ohio State locker rooms at halftime. And I believe Maryland just scored. Oh boy, let's look at this. Need my glasses. Buckeyes, Haskins. Did he throw a pick six? You bet he did. Pick six. Look at the Terps. Wow. Playing some inspired football. This team scored 3 points against Michigan State. They scored 0 against Iowa. And, of course, this was a defensive score. But, yeah, the pick six. Wow, look at the Terps. This is going to be bowl eligibility. This is Purdue all over again. This is a team that's got exceptional team speed. They just have nothing in the trenches. And the Buckeyes have not been able to take advantage of it like a Michigan State, Iowa, Michigan that just beats them down because they're so physically dominant. This Maryland defense leads FBS play with 18 interceptions. We talked about that in our preview this week. And the Buckeyes, let's see, down 14 points. They could have tied right at the end of the first half. That was a huge fumble by J.K. Dobbins. They get the ball out to the, 25, 30-yard line, 31-17. All right, back to the comments here. Sad thing, Ohio State is loaded with talent, and so is USC. Freeman, Allen, have never seen your handle. Good to have you on Mark Rogers TV. Jinker GM on the line as well. Yeah, Leon Hurricanes. Yes, Anthony McFarland. Remember him coming out, decommitting from Miami as the Buckeyes get all of 1 yard on first down. 24-10 Bama. Yeah, that Bama deal, that was just kind of fun for one half. That's not going to last. It's about to be 45-10. That Ohio State wide receiver owns that Maryland corner. Purdue owns Ohio. I don't really understand that comment. Ohio State, Purdue. Does Purdue beat anybody else from Ohio? Anyway, what happened to ye? 49-0 Florida. We've got a Gators comment, of course, taking on Idaho. We've got a personal foul against Maryland that will give the Buckeyes a first down. Mustang Mike, about that time for Urban Liar to fake another heart attack and spend more time with his family. The Miami fan at 5-5 talking about the Ohio State coach who is 9-1. Okay. This is embarrassing. Freeman Allen, are you a Duke fan? Yes, Freeman. Okay, that Freeman. I'm sorry, Freeman. Of course, Freeman, the Duke fan. I think too much drama on Urbana's shoulders. He knows he did wrong, thinks it's distractions has cost Ohio this year. Urbana? Is that intentional? Urbana. It's like Champaign, Urbana, Illinois. Urban stroking out right now. My son hates how Urban Meyer acts on the sidelines with all the frustrated looks and disgust and just feeling stressed, looking stressed. I don't know how he feels. I'm not going to be one of those analysts who talks about how people feel and what their attitudes are and what they're thinking. That drives me nuts. We don't know what they're thinking and feeling. He looks stressed. Buckeyes pick up 5 yards. All right, I think we've covered it. Let me look at the scoreboard real quick before we take off, and we'll be back after the noon games. I guess we'll come back most likely. Check out the scoreboard here. The glasses are, see, they're all bent. Okay, we've got the Buckeyes with a 3rd and 7. They've converted 4 of 7, 13 minutes left in the third quarter, down 31-17. This could be our first upset of the day. I tell you guys that there are 4 to 5 every week, and they missed the throw. Johnny Dixon thinks he was held, I guess, but yeah, he was. I think he was. That looks like a decent call. We'll see. So that's going to give the Buckeyes a first down. Let's go to the scoreboard. Alabama 31-10. It was fun while it lasted. 36-10. It'll be 37-10. It was fun while it lasted. All right. Maryland 31-17. Florida 49-0 over Idaho. Penn State 13. Rutgers nothing. Kentucky leads Middle Tennessee 31-10. Good showing by the Cats. Although Middle Tennessee has just scored a touchdown. 31-17. Mississippi State at home against Arkansas leads 24-6. Northwestern as a 3-point underdog, surprisingly, against Minnesota, 13-7 in the third. That game, you can imagine how much running in that game. I got to check the highlights. It's probably snowing in Minneapolis. It was 22 degrees at kickoff. They have already reached the 2-minute mark in the third quarter. That's how quickly that game's going. The Buckeyes on the move down to the 28-yard line, just completed the first down. Colorado with a touchdown. That's an upset pick that we threw out there in our predictions. I had somebody comment to me concerning our betting videos that they didn't like that I no longer pick the games. Well, the videos might be late, but I do predict the games each and every week. All of it's time stamped. It's there. So I predict all the games. So I get all the predictions and my neck's on the line with my predictions. So they're there. Colorado with an early touchdown rushing. Trayvon McMillan, the former Virginia Tech player, scores against Utah. We're all up to date. J.K. Dobbins, 126 yards today as the Buckeyes take it inside the 15. We'll finish out this drive. And Dobbins first down to the 2. This is going to be a shootout. And if Ohio State wins this game with all the mistakes that they've made and the horrible defensive play, basically the run defense, it's been all rushing except for one big pass play. Haskins, first and goal. Think he was stopped? No, he scored the touchdown. All right, the Buckeyes should make the PAT. We will call it 31-24. And we're set up for a wild second half in College Park. We also have Michigan State, Nebraska. Let's check the I hate that this goes to the top 25 games when I check the scores. We're the voice of college football. I care about all of college football, and there are sometimes games outside the top 25 that are more important than actual top 25 games. So I want to see those games as well. In particular, Michigan State and Nebraska. Temple leads South Florida. No, South Florida leads Temple 17-7. Army on top of Colgate 14-7. Just starting the third quarter, Michigan State, Nebraska 3-0. Sparty. Halftime score with TCU on top of Baylor 9-6. Pitt leads Wake 13-10 in the third. We talked about how close that game would be and that the Panthers would wrap up the Coastal Division with a win. 13-10 Pitt. I've got to get some of these games on the alternate screen so I can track them in the second half. That one's going to be my second choice, I think. Well, my third choice after Michigan State, Nebraska. Pitt, Wake. NC State leads Louisville. Everybody kills Louisville 24-3, 13 minutes left in the third. And again, Colorado has scored a touchdown against Utah to lead 6-0. Utah State and Colorado State are kicking off right now. And there you go. We're up to date, folks. I'm going to check the chat as we're in break right now, so we're not missing any action in the Ohio State game. All right. Maryland will find a way to lose, probably, just because they're not as good as Ohio State. Most likely, but don't be shocked if the Terps hold on and win this game. They are gashing the Buckeyes. OSU is getting beat by Maryland. Fred Jamison. Hey, Fred, this is the first time I've seen you on Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Welcome. Let us know how long you've been watching and who you root for. Swampy McGee on the line. In the alternate universe of Urban Meyer, who do you want as Ohio State's next head coach? If I could have anyone, I'll take Nick Saban. That's who I want. Nick Saban. I want him to coach Ohio State. Fred Jamison, top 10 rank. Bye-bye. Okay. Score is 31-24. They just started the third quarter. Let's not seal the deal quite yet. Welcome, Fred. Smash that like button. NASA, you're awesome. And if anybody out there knows more about YouTube than I do, you would be able to explain or confirm that hitting the like button really matters. That's what I hear. That's what everybody tells me. Get people to hit the like button. It helps push it into the suggested videos and just helps the channel. And that's what we're trying to do here. Even if you could care less about me, you love college football, you love college football talk, analysis, debate, discussion, you want it out there, then we've got to ramp this thing up. But thank you so much, NASA. Tommy Tuberville will be Ohio State's next coach. Tommy Tuberville's my man. He follows me on Twitter. Yeah, Tommy T. He's a great guy. Got some stories about Tommy Tuberville. Nothing that shouldn't be repeated. Like clean, good stories. Brandon Walker, this is the first time I've seen you on Mark Rogers TV. Welcome. Please let us know who you root for and how long you've been watching. How do you feel about Michigan going to Columbus next week, regardless of the outcome of this game? Okay, Brandon, we've talked about that all week. I will be talking all next week, this coming week, leading into the rivalry games about Ohio State and Michigan and everybody else. Believe me, I am just going to do nothing but crank out videos like nobody's business this week for the rivalry weekend, even the insignificant because they don't count toward championships this week. I love Florida State. That's going to be on my radar. Everything. I even booked 2 guests to talk Tennessee Vandy. I love the rivalries. We're going to talk all the big rivalries, all the rivalries this week. So we'll get to it. Maryland with the ball, first and 10. And I got to get the glasses back on, and they move it for about 3 yards. But then I got to take them off to read this. Dennis, I think we made a mistake when we hired Rick to coach the team. I'm starting to think that too. I didn't think it at the time. Mark, you have a good show. Thanks, Israel. I appreciate it. And I appreciate a lot of you viewers. I'll challenge what you say. I'll either correct you if it's factually incorrect, or I'll just challenge the logic. And for those of you that don't take offense, I try to do that with respect, just like you guys challenging me, maybe pointing out something that I stated that may not be correct factually, which I'm pretty strong on my facts, but the logic may not be right, or it's just an opinion, and you guys challenge me. That's why I'm here. That's why this is great. But when I do it to you as well, which I don't do very often, But sometimes I'll do it, especially if I feel comfortable with that particular viewer. If you've been with me for a long time, I appreciate it when you don't take offense. You just engage in the discussion because I try to do it respectfully. I do it respectfully. I don't try. I do it respectfully. Freeman loves Duke, of course. I don't know who else you like. Shane Westwood, Michigan is going to beat the brakes off of Ohio State. Probably the way they're playing right now, but don't be surprised, Shane, if it's a good ball game next week. Don't be surprised if the Buckeyes are ready to play. I'm just saying, don't be shocked. Somebody out there wants to give me the Buckeyes and 2 touchdowns next week. That's the story of that rivalry. Yes, 2008, 2009, 2010. I don't believe completely in the theory that you throw out the records, 10-0 versus 0-10, throw out the records. No, I think that's taken way to an extreme. When Ohio State has been much better than Michigan, what have they done? They've beaten Michigan. And many years it's been a blowout. 2008, 9, and 10, blowout, because Michigan was awful and the Buckeyes were one of the best teams in the country. They crushed them. 21-10, 37-7, 42-7. They killed them. You couldn't throw out the records. Michigan was awful. So it does matter that Michigan's got maybe the best defense in the country and that they are playing much better than Ohio State. That does matter. But when they step on the field in Columbus, things might be slightly different. It does matter. Typically, a team doesn't stop on a dime and correct everything in 1 week, and that's what we're asking Ohio State to do. Correct the pass defense, the rush defense, which has been awful, the offensive line issues. So Maryland will have to punt. So everyone in the live chat who has called a Maryland victory already, all right. Mike Mustang, more of a realistic college football fan. That's good to hear. Swampy McGee, Ohio State can't pass up the Lane Kiffin window of hiring opportunity. That just doesn't seem like a match, does it? I don't know. Isn't Ryan Day going to be the next coach? There's your coach, Ryan Day. All right, folks, I appreciate it. Do I let this thing just roll? Because I've got to watch college football. And you guys can listen to me in the background, chat, and watch college football, but I can't talk and watch college football at the same time. So the Buckeyes are back on the field, down 31-24, and there's about 8 minutes left in the third quarter. I will be back. Most likely, I will be back after the game, after all these noon games. I do have a call coming in. And yes, somebody has remembered the phone line. So we'll take a call. The call will start. Hey, it's Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line? Yeah, who do we have on the line?
Freeman.
Hey, Freeman, how are you?
Good.
What's up?
Huh? I'm good.
What do you have for us?
So, since there are some 4 and 6 teams this week,
yes,
I want to ask you one question.
Okay.
What's the chance of Charlotte and the Fighting Illini getting to a bowl game?
The chances, if they are 6 and 6, getting to a bowl game, or getting to 6 and 6?
Getting to 6 and 6.
Well, Illinois is a 15-point underdog against Iowa today at home. So most likely they've got about a 20% chance of winning that game. Then they're playing Northwestern next week. There'll be a substantial.
But Iowa does have a chance because they have a really good rush offense.
You mean Illinois has a chance? Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Iowa has one of the better defenses in the Big Ten. Yeah, I expect that I would not be surprised if it's a closer game, but I'll give Illinois a 20% chance to win that game. They are at home. Iowa's been very disappointing as of late, losing close games. I'll give them a 20% chance there. I'll give them a higher chance against Northwestern, even though Northwestern's quote-unquote better than Iowa in the standings. So what's that give Illinois? Like a 10 or 15% chance of getting to a bowl game. Charlotte. Now that, Freeman, that's a little bit out of my...
They would have to one upset.
Let's see what we got with Charlotte here.
They play at home against FIU, and then they play at FAU.
FIU, who's right now 7-3, 5-1, and then they've got FAU, who's been disappointing at 5-6, 3-4. So Charlotte's got about a 20 or 25% chance of beating FIU, and they've got about a 35% chance, 40% chance of beating FAU. So what do you say? 25% chance for Charlotte. And they don't have an automatic in just because they're 6-6, like Illinois will. Illinois, there are going to be
a lot. There are going to be many other teams that will go 6-6.
Exactly.
Season.
So Illinois is going to. The Big Ten will make sure that Illinois is in a bowl game if they're 6-6. They're 6-6 in a Power 5 league, maybe the best league or the second best league, so they'll get in. Charlotte, not necessarily. All right, Freeman?
Thank you for telling me, sir.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it. Thanks for joining the live chat, too. That was Freeman, big Duke fan. Of course, the Blue Devils play Clemson tonight. The Buckeyes are on the move. We will see you guys soon, probably after the noon games leading into the 3:30 Eastern time games. The Buckeyes have just ripped off about 8 yards. They're on the move close to another first down, trailing 31-24. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. You guys have been great. Thanks for joining the live chat. I know the notification went out late, but I saw what was developing here in College Park and thought we would jump on and talk about it at halftime. My boy's birthday's today, so we don't know when we're celebrating and what the festivities will be. So I will let you know as soon as I know when I will be on today, but my goal is to be on after the noon games, after the 3:30 games, after the primetime games, and late night. So we will see you soon. Thanks so much for joining, and go fill in the blank.